The opinions expressed in this show are the views of the host and not necessarily that of WTRW, 94.3 The Talker, or the Bold Gold Media Group.
The following presentation is paid for by Century 21 Jack Ruddy Real Estate, who is solely responsible for its content. Portions transcribed.
All Century 21 real estate offices are independently owned and operated.
Hi, I'm Jackie Ruddy, broker, Century 21 Jack Ruddy Real Estate. Welcome to the Real Estate Roundtable on 94.3 The Talker. I'm here with my co-host, husband, fellow realtor, Pat Devaney.
Good morning, Jackie.
How are you, Pat?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Very good, thank you. We have with us Cross Country Mortgage. We have the A team, Angelo Ambersakia and Brooke Hines. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having us, Jackie.
Thanks for being here with us. We are here every Saturday at 11 a.m., Sunday at 11:30 a.m., where we talk real estate. We have an exceptional real estate team with many realtors that have been listing, selling, and appraising real estate for 50-plus years.
During the week, feel free to email us with any questions you have at questions@jruddy.com. That's questions@jruddy.com, or you can give us a call at 570-344-6724. And when you go to jruddy.com, click on the webcam tab and see what's going on at Dunmore Corners. We got a camera on top of the building pointed at the corners.
Look us up on social media, view our listings, search the MLS listings, and listen to archive radio shows by going to mobile-friendly jruddy.com, where we also have all the popular podcast apps that we feature the radio show on. Okay, before we dive into our discussion with Angelo and Brooke, I'd like to say hello to Chuck Molinari. I hope I just didn't massacre your name, Chuck. He is the owner of Complete Fitness Equipment in Kingston, and he listens to our radio show, so I told him I was going to say hi to him. You want to hear a nice story?
Sure.
So he owns that Complete Fitness Equipment store in Kingston. He called our office because someone lost a wallet. He opened the store, he parked his car, he walked into his store, and then he had to leave to go to the bank or something. When he came back 20 minutes later, he noticed his wallet that wasn't there when he opened the door, before that time. So he called my office. Do you want to just try to guess as to why, out of all the places in the world he would call, why would he call us?
Business card was in there?
No. He Googled the address on the ID, and our company came up as having the listings for some of those units. So he figured we had to know the owner of the place that this person lived, or we may have even known this person. Well, long story short, that I would never give out somebody's, number like that. So even in this situation, but I was able to
connect them,
yeah.
And was it a happy ending?
Yes.
Was he reunited with his wallet?
Yes.
Was all the money still in it?
Yeah.
Wow.
There were credit cards and money. So thank God Chuck found the wallet, right? In today's day and
an
age.
honest man. That's a hard thing to find.
Right. That's why I wanted to go into the little story there.
That's very nice.
Restores your faith in humanity, because multiple times a day that faith for me is tested. I don't know about you, but in real estate, we see a lot of things, right? I'll end it right there.
Yeah, real estate brings out the best in people, doesn't it?
The A team, Angelo Ambersakia and Brooke Hines, Cross Country Mortgage. Let me tell you some recent news. CNBC reports mortgage rate decline pulls buyers back into the housing market. Yahoo Finance says housing confidence jumps to the highest level in 20 months, and that spells good news for you, for me, for buyers and sellers, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, we've definitely seen an uptick in buyers since the rates have come down a little bit.
More applications.
More
pre-approvals.
Absolutely. And the rates, again, there's a lot of things that affect interest rates. You really have to talk to a lender to get a personalized rate for what you in particular are doing. But overall, they are down a little bit. It has generated more buyers. And we're still telling everybody, too, Jackie, that refinance option is going to be there if there is a further drop, this year coming up. So don't wait to buy the house. If you find the right house, pull the trigger, get the house under contract, buy the thing, And, you could always refinance later on if you have to.
Especially if it checks all the boxes and it's everything you
Absolutely.
want, right? So why wait? And, we did talk about that, date the rate, marry the house, right? Marry the house, date the rate, whatever the saying is. And so we also talked about the importance of a pre-approval, that sellers require it. Especially if they're living in the home, they want to get the house ready, and they don't want to just do it for anybody. Life is busy, but also listing agents require it, especially people that have been in the business a long, long time. They don't want to waste their owner's time, so on and so forth. But here's another reason, and we didn't say this when we talked about this when you were here a couple weeks back, but pre-approval really is the most beneficial for the person who's going to be buying the house. First of all, you have the price range that you're looking for. So if you're pre-approved at $200, but you were looking at houses at $300, what's going to happen? You're not going to like that house at $200 because you're going to be comparing it to the one at $300. So eliminate that emotion, right? And expectation level.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of people just don't realize what they can afford, so that's why it is so important that they get a pre-approval and see what's your payment going to look like? What's the total cash to close going to look like? Is that something that's even feasible for the buyer? So it really is so important that and also too, we want to set everybody up for success. We want to make sure that buyer is going to get to the closing table smoothly. We want to make sure that there's a whole plan in place, for that buyer, so everything's a smooth process. So that really should be the first step always for a buyer. And agents should definitely be requiring pre-approvals from the get-go so that no time is wasted for anybody.
Well, here's the other part of that equation, which we didn't talk about. Buyer sees a house that just hit the market. Houses are still moving rather quickly. Many homes are still experiencing multiple offers. It's not as crazy as it was during, post, right when we came out of that close time from the pandemic. Mm-hmm. But we are seeing multiple offers, bidding wars on certain price points in certain areas when that right house comes along. If there's no pre-approval, there won't be any offer because the seller won't even entertain something without a pre-approval.
I went and I was putting a sign on a building the other day. As I was putting the sign on the building, the agent who has the listing comes over and says to me, well, I got the house sold. They had the buyer because the house was priced right. And if the house is priced right, you got to be ready. You can't be waiting 4 or 5 days for a pre-approval.
Less than 24 hours after that house was entered into the MLS, the Flex system, you're putting a sign on and it's already sold. So that goes to show you.
Yeah, and just a couple of things to follow up on with that, Jackie, too. When, for us, me and Brooke and I, we get calls on the weekends. We get calls in the evenings. We will get the pre-approval letter done as fast as we can because it is a market where you need to move quickly. But what I wanted to touch on quickly, too, was when you get a pre-approval from a lender, have a rapport with that lender, talk to that lender, because if I send you a pre-approval and say somebody is qualified for $200,000, they go and find a house, it could be the same price that they're pre-approved for, but there could be an issue with, you should be talking to your lender about each home they're looking at, because when we pre-approved you, the house you were looking at that time, the taxes were $2,000. Now this new house, that's the same price, the taxes are $4,500, or it's in a flood zone, or it's in an HOA. So you really should be speaking to the lender about specific homes too, as you're looking, and say, hey, I have a buyer our buyer is looking at this property on Main Street. Take a look and let me know. Make sure they qualify, that we're still good.
Right. So let's back up. You said flood insurance, association fees, or higher taxes.
Taxes
which
are the biggest.
Affect the payment because
Absolutely.
The association dues are a monthly fee. That, in addition to what the mortgage, the principal, the interest, taxes, and property taxes and insurance. Flood insurance is another biggie. Right. And when people don't realize they're in a flood zone, they've got to stop and calculate what it would cost for that insurance and add it in.
Right.
Yeah, that could kill the deal a lot of times. People don't. I've
seen it.
Yeah, we've definitely seen that. People not realizing it's in a flood zone, and then that's very important to know on all ends from the very beginning. That's why we pull a flood cert. Right when we get the contract, put in the address. We pull a flood cert just to make sure.
What is a flood cert?
A flood cert, it's a flood certification that tells us if it's in a flood zone or not. So we know right off the bat, and we'll let everybody know.
And we do that up front. Some lenders, believe it or not, do it later in the process.
Good.
Yeah, I don't understand the logic there, but we do that right up front, so you'll know right up front if there is an issue with a flood zone involved. But again, when we're looking at properties, let's say somebody comes in and it's a $200,000 property again. We might put in $200 or $250 a month in as an estimate for taxes because they don't have a property picked out yet. They go and find a property that's in an area with high taxes. Now they're double what we estimated. They may no longer qualify. So the buyer and the realtor should be speaking to that lender on a regular basis while they're showing them homes.
I can't understand when agents don't talk to the lender. That was, that's something that's really important because buyers sometimes, even though they're communicating with you, I don't know that they truly understand. Sometimes it sounds like they have a gist of it, but there's some pieces of the puzzle missing. So I always encourage agents to speak to the lender as well because every pre-approval is different. There's some that are very basic, and then there's some that tell you the whole story. I like to obviously see the whole story.
Well, on our end too, we try to keep it as personal as we can and educate the buyer. We get buyers that were pre-approved elsewhere that come to us and say, hey, we want to talk to you and get a quote from you. Okay, well, your other lender that you spoke to, what type of loan did they pre-approve you for? I don't know.
Right.
What was your down payment they were assuming? I don't know. They just sent me a pre-approval letter. So it is very important to get in the weeds on this information and make sure that the buyer knows what they're coming up with and what their estimated payment might be, what type of loan they're getting. It's all important during the process.
Absolutely. And that's for our contracts, too. That's information we need to put in the blanks. The amount of the mortgage, the type of mortgage, the interest rate span, the points. We need to know it all.
Right. And that can really change an offer, too. I mean, there was recently I just got this is a conventional loan. And then I alerted everyone, this is PHFA conventional. And then the seller's agent was like, oh my gosh, wait a minute. We did not agree to FHA. And I was like, nope, it's PHFA different. PHFA can be a conventional loan. So, I had to make sure that everybody was aware of that so that nobody was, I had just make sure everybody understood what the actual, program was and how that changed the deal because it could change the offer. It could change all of that.
And as you know, Jackie, too, where the property is at. Let's say, somebody is not looking in the Scranton area and finds a property in Scranton, a little bit higher transfer tax, right? So maybe the transfer tax is a little higher. Maybe the taxes are a little higher. So now instead of coming up with $5,000 or $6,000, they're coming up with $8,000 or $9,000, and they don't know where they're going to get it from. So that's why you really have to be talking on a property by property basis with the lender and saying, please update this for me. We're going to look at this property, and they want to see what it's going to look like on paper.
Okay. What do you think from your point of view, because my point of view might be different, why do you think deals are falling through? What's the most frequent reason why?
So what we see a lot is lenders who don't do their due diligence. We have a lot of people come to us saying, hey, my deal's falling apart elsewhere. Can you help me? And then we get into the file and we're like, oh my gosh, this is a mess or whatever it is. Or, and a big thing too with us, I feel like why we are, not to toot our own horn here, but why we are good at this really is because we're so creative. You have to be so creative in this job to make deals work. Maybe this other lender, maybe they just, got pay stubs, plugged in the income, the correct amount of income or whatever. And they're like, oh, DTI, debt to income's too high, doesn't work. But we're like, wait a minute. No, maybe you could pay off a debt. Maybe you could, maybe just put a little bit more money if you have a little bit more money.
Co-borrower, whatever.
Yeah, co-borrower, whatever it is. So I think it's really doing your due diligence as a lender, making sure that these people are pre-approved, collecting pay stubs, whatever you need to do to make sure that you're giving out a solid pre-approval so that when you get in the deal, you can pretty much expect that deal to go from, to the closing table.
And that I think comes down to the originator and the originator team. Like when we get documents at the pre-approval stage, we're reviewing all this stuff. Pay stubs, bank statements. Does everything make sense? I think there are a lot of lenders out there that are getting the pay stubs, getting the bank statements, getting the W-2s, uploading them to a file, and then they sit there until an underwriter looks at it, which could be a week, 2 weeks, or more later. So something they're catching midway or more through the deal, we're catching right up front before they're even finding a house when they're pre-approved. Just a quick, silly example of that would be, let's say somebody is on a salary and they make $75,000 a year, and it's June and we get their pay stub, and for the year they've made 20. Okay. The year is halfway through and you've made 20,000. You should be at, 37 or whatever it works out to there. Why is your year-to-date number so far off? We're asking that question, getting an explanation, making sure it sticks. That's something that's easy to miss. And again, it's not picked up sometimes until later in the process. And then everybody has to go back to the realtor and the buyer and say, hey, we got a problem.
Have you ever issued a pre-approval and not gotten to the closing table?
I mean,
and if so, why?
Yeah,
Let's talk about that, because it's probably not on your end.
Well, there are so many things that go into, like, people don't even realize how many things go into the whole story. I mean, a buyer could be as honest as they can be, and a lender could look at it. It could look at the pre-approval as much as they possibly can, but you can still just never expect some of the things that could come up, there's been things, well, this one wouldn't be our fault, but I was thinking of an example of, a guy retired. We had that one where the guy retired like a day before closing, and we did the verification of employment because we always check, 5 days prior to closing, we have to do the verification of employment, which means we have to call your employer and make sure you're still employed. And this guy retired, and he was like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that I couldn't retire. Like, this was always my plan. And we were like, well, now we have no income for your file. Now we can't close because we have no income. So, there's just things like that come up, things that, we didn't foresee. And that's going to happen with any lender, no matter how good you are.
And even from an asset standpoint, we've seen, I'm going to get a gift from my brother or from my mother. And then all of a sudden, magically, they're not able to give it to me anymore. Like, well, we based the whole thing on you getting this money from a family member that said, so we have to go by what they're telling us. And we try to verify it. We try to cross the T's and dot the I's as much as possible, but
you're only as good as the information you're given.
Absolutely.
So what about people buying furniture, appliances, cars, vehicles, making those types of major changes with their spending habits?
We have had that come up where somebody will trade in their car and their payment goes up $300, $400, $500 a month. We get notified if somebody has a new credit pull on their credit report, and then we have to follow up and say, hey, I see Macy's pulled your credit. Did you open a credit card? We have to get an explanation of that. Generally speaking, if you have a card already opened and you're using it, we're not going to know, because unless, enough time goes by that we have to pull an updated credit report. But those credit reports are good for a while.
Okay.
So if you're going to use a card and you have to buy something, use one that's already open. Don't open up a new card. Try not to open up any new debt or anything like that during the process.
Don't quit your job.
Yes.
Don't get mad at the boss and walk out, right? And even job changes. You might be, making a great change for yourself, your family. Income might be much better at this new position, but even sometimes when it would be looked at as a positive thing, it would actually hurt them in this process, correct?
Yeah, I mean, it could. In that case, if maybe they were a regular nurse and now they became a travel nurse or something, and it's more money, but that's a totally different type of pay, and we have to have a history. So in those cases, yeah, it could hurt. Usually
we had one recently too, where somebody, I don't remember the exact details of their job, but they were getting a very good salary at their old job. He was switching jobs during this process, and at the new job, his salary was going to be lower, but there were other incentives that overall he would have been making a lot more money. That hurts us. because we need a 2-year history.
I
If
was
you're
just
getting
gonna say,
bonuses,
yeah,
commissions,
2 year, right.
all we could use is your salary. And now you went from 250 to 200, and we could potentially have a problem. So again, communication. It all comes back to talking to the lender, keeping them up to date on anything you're going to do before you do it.
Before, that's key. Cross Country Mortgage, the A-team, Angelo Ambersakia and Brooke Hines. How does someone get in touch with you, please?
So our website is www.angeloateam.com. All of our contact information is there. And that's, again, angeloateam.com, angeloateam.com.
Thank you. It's time for a quick break. We'll be back in a few moments with more Real Estate Roundtable with Century 21 Jack Ruddy Real Estate at 94.3 FM The Talker. When considering to sell or buy a home, why choose Century 21 Jack Ruddy Real Estate? Let me tell you why. 70% of home buyers settle for the first agent they meet, and many regret it. 90% of home sellers hire an agent, but was it the right choice? Don't have agent remorse. I'm Jackie Ruddy, and I've been in and around the real estate business for most of my life. And at Century 21 Jack Ruddy Real Estate, we've been selling real estate for half a century. But we do not do it halfway. You deserve better than average. Average doesn't help you. We know it's all about you and what you need. Century 21 is the #1 in brand awareness, is the most recognized name in real estate, and is the most respected in the industry. In this market, if you dream big, you need to move fast. So it makes perfect sense to contact Century 21 Jack Ruddy Real Estate, 570-344-6724, and visit jruddy.com. That's JRUDDY.com. Welcome back to the Real Estate Roundtable with Century 21 Jack Ruddy Real Estate on 94.3 FM The Talker. I'm Jackie Ruddy, in with Pat Devaney, my husband, fellow realtor.
And we're back.
With the A-team, Cross Country Mortgage, Angelo Ambersakia and Brooke Hines. How are you?
Very good. Thanks for having us.
We're enjoying our discussion with you guys today. Very good stuff here. Before we dive back into what we were talking about, I'd like to take a moment to thank our sponsor, Disaster Blaster. During these cold Northeast PA winters, frozen pipes, ice dams, and leaks are common, and you may be wondering who you should call for help. The answer is Disaster Blaster. With decades of experience with insurance claims, they have the skills, training, and expertise to get your house back to normal as quickly as possible. When disaster strikes, Disaster Blaster is here to make things right. Call 570-963-1123. That's 570-963-1123. And visit www.disasterblaster.com. Okay, the A-team, Angelo Ambersakia and Brooke Hines of Cross Country Mortgage. So, pre-approvals, we established, are pretty important, but they're pretty easy to do. Your turnaround time, you work on the weekends, you work on at night. Mm-hmm. Whenever somebody needs a pre-approval, you're there. Turnaround time is just, what, a couple hours?
Yeah, I mean, same day for sure. We jump on it as soon as we can, you know. If we're not doing a radio show or whatever, we have, you know, we'll get on it, you know, as soon as we can.
Immediately.
Yeah.
So they can go online to what?
AngeloAteam.com. You can put in a pre-approval right there. That's ANGELOATEAM.com. You can put in a pre-approval right there on our website. And if you have any questions beforehand, you could always give us a call and reach out first. Our contact information is on that website as well. But yeah, once you put in the pre-approval, we jump on it right away and get it out to you as fast as we can.
How long is the pre-approval good for?
It's good for, well, it's typically good for 4 months, 3 to 4 months. We do, and that's if you do a hard credit pull. But I guess with a soft credit pull too, it's always good to make sure that, you know, every few months we're doing another soft credit pull or hard credit pull on your credit, so that we make sure no debt has changed. Really, the pre-approval expiring is up to the buyer. If their situation hasn't changed, it's most likely they're pre-approved. And if the market hasn't had too crazy of changes, it's likely they're still pre-approved. But if that buyer, their credit score, you know, really tanked, or if they got a ton of new debt, it's likely you're not you know what I mean? So it really just kind of depends. But typically pre-approval is good for 3 to 4 months once we have to, do another pull on their credit.
Yeah, and as far as how long it takes, Jackie, we've had some of them that were 15, 20 minutes. Like, no brainer. Great credit, money down. They could verify where it's coming from. But where it gets tricky is if somebody is self-employed or if they own a lot of properties. Let's say you only own one property right now, and there's no mortgage on it. That doesn't mean there's no debt on it. Even though there's no mortgage, we need to verify the taxes and the insurance and count that against you. And there could be rent to offset it or whatever. But when there are multiple properties owned, when somebody is self-employed, maybe somebody works entirely on commission. They're not self-employed, but they work on commission. We really want to make sure we see the pay stubs and W-2s. So that could delay things a little bit. But when we do that, that's the diligence we're doing. We're not just sending a letter out, hoping it looks good when it comes back. So most of them are really quick. Some of them are not as quick, but it is a very quick, usually painless process.
Yeah, I have a story. So this just happened yesterday in my place. One of our realtors had a pre-approved buyer up to $200,000. They found the house. They got their offer accepted.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
The pre-approval didn't state what type of property it had to be. And so the person was the buyer was pre-approved based on an income property that they were going to live in. So they found a single family home that they found they liked. They put the offer in and it got accepted.
That's tricky.
Yeah,
Very
that
tricky.
happens. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. We try to we try to make sure when we're sending out a pre-approval, here's, what has to happen for this pre-approval to still be valid. If it's if we're basing a lot of the income that they have in the file off of the property that's supposed to cash flow for them, a 2-family or whatever it may be, that can drastically change a pre-approval. We try to put all that right up front. We try to let the realtor know, the buyer know, all those things.
And
but
usually it's the in the past, at least, it's been the reverse for us, where we'll pre-approve somebody for a single family, and then they find a multifamily. And recently there have been changes made where you could put as little as 5% down if you're going to live in the property on a multifamily. Those are recent changes.
Right. So before.
Prior to that, yes.
It would blow it out of the water.
That could be a problem. We pre-approved you for a single family. You found a 3-unit. That changes the game here. So, yes, the type of property can make a big difference.
Okay. Angelo Ambersakia and Brooke Hines, the A-Team Cross Country Mortgage. How does someone get in touch with you?
So our website is angeloateam.com. That's ANGELOATEAM.com. All of our contact information is there. You can even put in a pre-approval on our site.
And we have an easier email address too, because my last name, Jackie. So angeloateam@ccm.com is a quick way to email 2 of us at the same time. And one of us will jump on that thing right away and get an answer to you.
Fabulous. Thank you, guys. Would you come back next week?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yep.
Pat.
Yes, we have an inviting 2-story home for sale in the beautiful Trip Park area of Scranton. It's at 107 Little Spike Way for $369,000. This custom-built gem was built in 2006. It's 2,300 square feet. It has 4 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, including a master bedroom suite. It's got a granite kitchen, a family room with a gas fireplace, an elegant formal living room and dining rooms. It also includes a second-floor laundry, gorgeous hardwood floors, gas heat, and central air. The exterior of the home is a blend of stone and vinyl. It has an attached 2-car garage. All of this on a 1/4 acre in the city of Scranton. That's a 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath home at 107 Little Spike Way in the Trip Park section of West Scranton for $369,000. And that's listed by Nicole Clark of our office.
Also known as Trips Park.
Trips Park.
People say Trips Park. People say Trip Park. And I actually Googled it to see which is correct. And it's really like a coin toss.
A coin toss.
A coin toss.
I can't say that. Say that 10 times fast.
It's like a coin toss. But I truly believe, based on what I know. I don't know. Do you guys have any opinion here?
Trip versus trips?
Mm-hmm.
Trips is what I've used, but yeah.
I've always used trips too, but I think it's trip. And I don't think it really matters. We're out of time. Thanks for joining the Real Estate Roundtable with Century 21 Jack Ruddy Real Estate on 94.3 FM The Talker. We'll be back next Saturday at 11 a.m. and Sunday at 11:30 a.m.